My newborn baby was only 8 days old, sleeping softly in her pink blanket inside her little carrier on our front porch. The morning was calm, warm, and quiet. Then Karen showed up. Karen, our furious HOA president in her bright red jacket, marched across the yard holding a butane torch, the kind people use for cooking or lighting grills. She waved it in the air like it was some kind of weapon. She yelled, "You can't leave this baby carrier outside. It's an HOA violation." I lifted my hands. "Karen, she's not outside. I'm right here. She's only 8 days old." But Karen didn't care. She clicked the torch. A blue flame shot out, sparking loudly. My wife screamed. My newborn jolted awake and began crying, tiny frightened cries. Karen stepped closer, pointing the flame toward the side of the baby carrier, not touching it but way too close. "You want to ignore my rules?" she shouted. "Then deal with the consequences," neighbors gasped. Some began recording. Karen laughed, waving the flame dramatically. "That'll teach you people to follow the HOA bylaws." She had no idea. The newborn she was threatening with a flaming torch, the tiny baby she tried to punish over a neighborhood rule, was the police chief's daughter. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you were watching from, and please hit subscribe for more stories where the good guys always win. My newborn baby was only 12 days old, wrapped in a tiny yellow blanket, sleeping softly in her little carrier on our front porch while we set up decorations for her welcome home celebration. The morning sun was warm, birds were chirping, and everything felt peaceful, perfect, safe. Until Karen arrived. Karen, our furious HOA president, marched toward us in her bright red jacket, her face twisted with anger. But what shocked me was what she held in her hand, a butane fire torch, the same one chefs use to melt sugar on desserts, the same one that produces a thin, sharp blue flame. Karen waved it like a weapon as she stormed across the grass. "You can't block the walkway with baby equipment," she yelled. "This is an HOA violation. Remove IT now." I stared at her, confused. "Karen, that's not equipment. That's my newborn daughter. She's 12 days old." But Karen didn't care. She never did. She stepped closer to the baby carrier, ignoring the cries of neighbors who had stopped to watch. "This neighborhood has rules," she barked, "and rule breakers get consequences." She flicked the torch's switch. A sharp whoosh echoed through the yard as a long, bright blue flame burst out. My wife gasped. "Karen, stop! That's a baby." Karen didn't stop. She leaned forward, holding the flame inches from the baby's blanket. My newborn's eyes shot open. She let out a sudden, terrified cry, the kind of helpless cry that shreds a parent's soul. But Karen only smirked. "Good," she shouted over the flame. "Maybe you people will finally follow the rules." I felt my entire body freeze. Karen, the woman who fined people for flower pots, yelled at kids for sidewalk chalk, and wrote warning letters for leaving recycling bins out too long, now held a live flame next to my newborn child. My wife ran forward, voice cracking. "Karen, please, stop. You're scaring her." Karen flicked the flame even closer, the blue light reflecting in her angry eyes. "Move this thing off the walkway," she barked, "or I'll move it myself." I stepped between Karen and the baby, shoving the flame away from the carrier. "What is wrong with you?" I yelled. "She's a newborn. Back up." Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh, please, she's fine. Babies cry over everything." "She's terrified," my wife said, crying. "She just got home from the hospital." Karen laughed. "Well, she better get used to the rules in this neighborhood." Neighbors gasped. Phones came out. People whispered. "What is she doing? She's gone insane. Karen, put that thing down." But Karen ignored them. She waved the torch again, pacing in front of our porch like a furious dragon. "I've told you all," she shouted at the entire block. "This walkway must stay clear. I won't let anyone, especially you two, think you're above the HOA." My newborn's cries grew louder. My wife knelt beside her, hands shaking as she tried to comfort her. "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. We're right here," she whispered, tears dripping onto the blanket. The flame sparkled dangerously close. I stepped forward, lowering my voice to something steady and cold. "Turn that torch off," Karen smirked. "Or what?" I clenched my jaw. "You don't threaten children." "It's not a threat," Karen shouted. "It's motivation. You people need to learn." My entire body tightened. I took one slow step toward her. "Karen," I said, "you're pointing fire at a newborn." She scoffed. "She's not on fire. She'll live." My wife gasped again, covering her mouth, shaking with fear. Karen raised the flame higher, shouting, "This neighborhood will follow my rules, starting today," but she didn't notice something. As I stepped forward, my jacket shifted, and my badge, my gold badge, glinted under the morning sun. A few neighbors noticed first. "Oh my God, he's police. No, he's the chief." And then Karen saw it. Her eyes froze, her breath caught. She stared at the badge like lightning had struck her. You're, she stuttered. I took another step toward her. "I'm the police chief." The torch shook in her hand. The flames sputtered. Her face lost all color. I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear, I didn't know she was your baby." "You shouldn't need to know," I said. "You should care because she's a human life." Karen backed up, shaking. "No, wait. I wasn't really going to hurt her. I was just enforcing the rules." I stepped between her and my baby, pointing at the flame. "You flicked that torch on. Twice." Karen's eyes widened with panic. But, I didn't mean..." The neighbors circled around us. Phones were recording. Whispers turned into angry shouts. "That's a newborn, Karen. You're dangerous. Put the torch down. Someone call the police." Karen looked around wildly, breathing fast. "No, don't call anyone. I'm the HOA president. I can fix this." But it was too late. The damage was done. She had crossed the line, the one line no sane person ever crosses. She threatened a baby, and she threatened the wrong baby, because the newborn she'd aimed a fire torch at was the police chief's daughter, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I reached my wife in seconds, my footsteps pounding against the pavement. She had already scooped up the baby carrier, pressing our newborn tightly against her chest, shielding her tiny body from the heat sizzling in the air. Karen didn't lower the flaming torch. She didn't apologize. She didn't back away. She didn't even look sorry. Instead, she rolled her eyes like we were being dramatic. "Oh, please," she snapped. I didn't touch her. The flame wasn't even that close. My wife's voice cracked with disbelief. "Barely close?" she shouted. "She's 9 days old. You could have burned her blanket." Karen shrugged, waving the fire torch like it was some kind of trophy. "The HOA says no items blocking the walkway," she said proudly. "And if the rules say clear IT, then clear IT." She squeezed the trigger lightly, releasing another burst of fire. A loud hiss cut through the air. My newborn whimpered, then cried again, louder, faster. The flame wasn't touching her, but the heat, the sound, the sheer threat. It was enough to terrify any baby, especially one so small. "Turn IT off," I barked. Karen ignored me. Neighbors began appearing behind curtains. A few doors opened. Then the recording started. Phones popping up like popcorn as people realized this wasn't a loud argument. This was dangerous. She's pointing a torch at a baby. "Oh God, is she serious?" "She's gone too far." Karen pointed the torch at them now. "Stay out of this," she screamed. "This is my neighborhood and my rules." I stepped forward, placing myself directly between the flame and my wife. "Karen, turn off the torch," I said, my voice low, calm, dangerous. "Now," she scoffed loudly. "Or what?" she mocked. "You'll complain to the HOA board? Guess what? I am the board." The flame trembled at the end of her torch as she tightened her grip. My newborn cried harder. My wife whispered desperately, "It's okay, sweetheart, it's okay," though her hands were shaking too much to convince anyone, even herself. Karen smirked, lifting the torch slightly. "You people are way too sensitive," she said. "It was just a little flame." Good grief. A baby should be tougher than that. A chorus of gasps erupted from the neighbors. Mrs. Patel stormed out of her house. "A newborn? Tougher?" she shouted. "Karen, you've lost your mind." Karen snapped toward her. "Shut it, Patel. You're always complaining about something." "Stay out of it," another neighbor yelled. "She aimed fire at a baby. That's crazy. Call someone." Karen spun in a circle, shouting at everyone. I said back, "Up. This is HOA business. Nobody interferes with HOA enforcement." My wife trembled. Her voice cracked with terror. "Please, stop. She's just a baby." Karen rolled her eyes. "And I'm just enforcing rules. Don't like it? Move that baby carrier." She stepped forward, flame hissing. My wife stumbled back. I snapped, I flew forward, placing myself directly in Karen's path. Put, I T down, she froze, but only for a second, then burst into mocking laughter. Ooh, did I hurt Daddy's feelings? She taunted. She still didn't know. She still didn't see the badge under my jacket. She still didn't understand who she was challenging. Karen tilted the torch again, sparks spitting out. You all think you're above the rules, she shouted at the crowd. And I am tired of people doing whatever they want in my neighborhood. You block the walkway, leave decorations outside, your trash cans are out early, and now this baby gear. You're insane, someone yelled. Karen snapped. I am the HOA. I clenched my fists. My wife whispered, panicked. She's too close. Please do something. My newborn wailed again, her tiny voice trembling, frightened by the sound of fire. I stepped even closer to Karen. Turn off the torch, I said again. Make me, Karen sneered. The neighbors gasped. Oh no. She shouldn't have said that. He's going to explode. But I didn't explode. I simply reached down and adjusted my jacket. The sunlight hit the metal clip to my waist, a glint, a flash, a badge, a gold badge. The neighbors noticed instantly. Oh my God, someone whispered. He's police. No, he's the chief. Karen didn't notice yet. She was too busy ranting. You people will respect me. I do everything for this place. I make the rules, I enforce the rules, Then she saw it. Her words stopped mid-scream. Her eyes dropped. Her breath hitched. Her hand shook so badly the torch flickered. What? She whispered. She blinked hard. She stared at the badge like it didn't belong in the real world. You're, she stuttered. I took one slow step toward her. I'm the police chief. The torch wobbled. Neighbors fell silent. Karen's entire face collapsed, ego melting into pure fear. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know she was your baby. I didn't know, I didn't mean, you shouldn't need to know, I said coldly. You never point fire near a child. Karen swallowed so hard it echoed. Her knees weakened, her voice cracked. I wasn't actually going to burn her. I just wanted to scare you so you would move. That's worse, someone said. Karen's face twisted. No, please, this is a misunderstanding. Neighbors shook their heads. You terrorized a newborn. You've crossed every line. You've gone too far. Karen backed away, clutching her hair. No, you're all twisting it. I was following the rules, But the truth was right there. She'd pointed a flaming torch at a newborn. The crowd knew it. My wife knew it. I knew it. And now Karen knew. She'd just destroyed her own life, with her own hands, and her own fire. Because the baby she threatened was the police chief's daughter, and her nightmare was only just beginning. Neighbors came pouring out of their houses as soon as they heard the screaming. First one door opened, then 3, then 5. Within seconds, half the street stood outside, forming a loose circle around Karen, me, my wife, and our newborn. People crossed their arms. People whispered. People filmed everything on their phones, but all of them stared in disbelief at the object in Karen's hand, a small fire torch, its flame still flickering dangerously close to the baby carrier my newborn slept in seconds ago. Mrs. Patel, normally the calmest woman in the entire neighborhood, marched forward like a storm. Karen, she shouted, pointing at the lit flame. That is a fire torch. You could have hurt the baby. Karen scoffed like the accusation insulted her. Oh, please. Drama. It wasn't even close. A teenager from across the street stepped forward, eyes wide. Karen, it was an inch away from her blanket. We saw it. Karen whipped around, glare fierce. Well, maybe they should follow the rules. Then none of this would have happened. She lifted the torch again, waving it wildly as she spoke. The flame swayed dangerously, making several neighbors gasp and take a step back. You nearly burned a newborn, someone yelled. Karen spun, eyes blazing with fury. Stop exaggerating. I'm trying to help this community. I am the only one who cares about order. You're scaring the community, another neighbor replied calmly. Yeah, someone else chimed in. Especially the baby. She was just sleeping until you came over screaming like a lunatic. My wife held our newborn close, rocking her gently as our baby whimpered in fear. Karen snapped at her. Oh, stop, she'll be fine. Babies cry for everything. My wife's eyes filled with hurt. She's 9 days old, she said softly. She shouldn't even know what fear feels like yet. But Karen wasn't listening. Not to me, not to my wife, not to anyone. Her entire world was the HOA. Her entire identity was power. Her entire sense of worth was control. "You people never listen," Karen shouted at the crowd. "You plant the wrong flowers, paint the wrong colors, have unapproved gatherings. Everyone here breaks the rules. I'm done being ignored." A neighbor yelled back, "You terrorize people." "You're out of control, Karen," another shouted. Karen's grip tightened around the torch. Her breathing quickened. Her hair stuck to her forehead from sweat. "I am in charge," she screamed. "This is my neighborhood. I keep order." Her voice cracked, not from anger but from fear, the kind of fear a person feels when their empire is collapsing. But she wasn't done unraveling. She turned in a circle, shouting at everyone like a queen losing her crown. "You need me. Without me, this place would fall apart. I keep the grass trimmed, the fences painted, the trash bins organized. I keep everything in shape." "You're keeping it in fear," someone muttered. A few neighbors nodded. Karen spun toward them, torch flame flaring as she moved. "You're all against me," she shrieked. "You always have been. You never appreciated anything I did." And then, in the middle of her spinning, ranting, torch-waving chaos, Karen finally saw it. My badge. The gold glint caught her eye like sunlight reflecting off a blade. She froze mid-turn, mid-breath, mid-word. Her face drained of color instantly. The fire torch dipped downward, flame trembling like her hand. Her voice dropped to a whisper, barely audible. You're police?" I stepped toward her slowly. "I'm not just police," I said. "I'm the police chief." The crowd murmured loudly in shock, some whispering, some filming even closer. Karen stumbled backward so fast she nearly tripped over her own feet. I didn't know," she stuttered. "I didn't know she was your baby. I swear I didn't know." "You shouldn't need to know," I said firmly. "You never wave fire, any fire, near a child." Karen shook her head hard, hair whipping across her face. No, you're twisting this. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. It was just to scare them, to make them listen." "That's worse," a neighbor shouted. Karen spun again, panicking. It wasn't serious. The flame wasn't big. I was just motivating them to follow the HOA rules. A neighbor stepped forward, voice sharp. "You pointed fire at a newborn. Are you listening to yourself?" Karen covered her ears, voice trembling. Stop. I didn't mean it. I wasn't thinking. You're all overreacting." My wife, still rocking our trembling baby, whispered painfully. "You terrified her. You terrified us." Karen's eyes went glassy. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just wanted order. I didn't think. I didn't mean." But her apology was too late. Because at that exact moment, sirens echoed down the street. Loud, clear, growing closer. Karen looked up, her face twisting in horror. "No," she whispered. No, they're coming for me." She dropped the torch. The small flame fizzled out on the pavement. Her knees shook. Her breath came out fast and uneven. Oh God. I didn't mean for it to go this far." The neighbors watched silently. Some crossed their arms. Some nodded. Some whispered, "It's time." Karen stumbled backward, gripping her hair. "I'm the HOA president," she whimpered. "I'm important. I keep order. You need me." I stepped forward. "No," I said. "We need safety more." Karen's legs gave out. She collapsed to the curb, sobbing. The sirens grew louder, echoing off every house. And Karen finally understood. Her power was gone. Her control was gone. Her world was collapsing. Because she hadn't just threatened a family. She threatened the police chief's newborn daughter. And justice was almost there. Karen started pacing in tight, frantic circles, still clutching the small, handheld fire starter torch she had used like it was some kind of HOA-approved authority weapon. Her bright red jacket swayed with every panicked step. Her breathing was sharp, fast, broken. Her eyes darted around the neighborhood as if the houses themselves were judging her. No, this isn't happening," she muttered to herself. "I wasn't trying to hurt her. I was just enforcing the rules." My wife stood a few feet away, holding our newborn tightly against her chest. The baby was finally calming, but soft whimpering still vibrated through her tiny body. My wife's face was pale and exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but her voice was steady when she answered Karen. "You waved a fire gun near a 9-day-old baby," she said coldly. That's not enforcing rules. That's endangering a life. A neighbor stepped forward, pointing at Karen with shaking hands. You threatened a newborn with a torch. A torch, Karen? Karen snapped toward them, shaking her head violently. No, I didn't. It wasn't like that, she shouted. It was a warning. I wasn't going to actually burn anything. My voice joined in, low, controlled, but filled with steel. A warning doesn't involve fire, I said. You don't warn people by aiming flames at a baby. Karen took a stumbling step backward until her spine hit a mailbox. The metal rattled from the impact. Her voice shrank into a terrified whisper. She didn't get burned. It was just a scare. You scared a baby, I said. That alone is too far. Karen's chest heaved. The fire torch slipped slightly in her sweaty palms as panic tightened around her. You're twisting everything, she insisted. You're all acting like I'm a monster. I was doing my job. No, a neighbor answered firmly. You were abusing your power. Karen's eyes flicked from face to face. For the first time since she became HOA president, not a single person supported her. Not one nod. Not one word in her defense. Only silence and condemnation. You need me in this neighborhood, she yelled with a desperate laugh. I'm the reason this place is so organized. You're the reason people are afraid, another neighbor shot back. Karen's knees began to shake. She clutched her own arms like she was trying to hold herself together. Her breath stuttered. I can't get arrested, she cried. I'm the HOA president. I'm important. You can't do this. No, someone said quietly. We need safety, not fear. Karen flinched at that, hard. Her face crumpled like a paper collapsing in a fire. She started shaking uncontrollably, almost dropping the fire tool as her fingers weakened. I didn't mean it, she whispered, eyes filling with tears. I wasn't trying to hurt the baby. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. My wife's voice came out soft, but sharp enough to cut through Karen's excuses. You pointed fire at a newborn. Karen sobbed. It wasn't lit that strong. A neighbor corrected her instantly. You pressed the trigger. Flames came out. Karen covered her ears, sinking lower against the mailbox. You're all against me. All of you. I did everything for this neighborhood. You terrorized people, someone answered. You fined kids for sidewalk chalk. You yelled at families for birthday decorations. You told Mrs. Lee her flowers were too cheerful. You tried to ban dogs. And now, another neighbor added, you threatened a newborn. You crossed the line. Karen's tears spilled over. She shook her head helplessly. I can't go to jail, she screamed. I didn't do anything. I was trying to help. You scared a 9-day-old baby, I repeated. That's not help. Karen suddenly froze. Her eyes widened. Her whole body stiffened. Because in the distance, sirens began to echo, faint at first, then louder, closer, growing with terrifying clarity. Karen covered her head with both arms as if the sound itself were going to hit her. No, please, no, she whimpered. This can't be happening. They aren't coming here. They can't be coming for me. But they were. The neighbors fell silent. My wife held our newborn tighter, swaying gently as the baby calmed, her soft breathing returning. I stood tall, watching Karen unravel completely. The sound of the approaching police sirens grew louder, bouncing between the houses, filling the entire neighborhood with blue and red flashes even before the cars arrived. Karen's breath turned into rapid gasps. I didn't know she was your baby, she whispered at me. I swear I didn't know. I wouldn't have done it. You shouldn't need to know, I answered. You should care because she's a human being. Karen slid down the mailbox until she was sitting on the ground, arms wrapped around her knees. Her voice cracked into a heartbreaking whisper. Oh God, I'm going to jail. Her face was blotchy from crying, her jacket wrinkled, her hair disheveled, her whole body shaking. And she was right. She was going to jail. The rest of the neighborhood stood still, waiting, knowing the moment the sirens reached us, Karen's reign of terror would finally end. And as the lights flashed against the street and the officers approached, Karen finally understood. Threatening a newborn wasn't a rule violation, it was a crime. And the father she screamed at was the police chief. 2 police cars screeched to a stop at the curb, their lights flashing red and blue across the entire neighborhood. The officers inside had barely stepped out before they froze at the sight in front of them. Karen, trembling, sweating, wild-eyed, gripping a lit fire torch in her shaking hands. My newborn daughter, wrapped in a tiny blanket, was held tightly against my wife's chest as she cried softly, still recovering from the fear Karen caused. Neighbors stood scattered across the lawn and sidewalk, phones out, breath held, the entire street caught in one single moment of shock. Officer Ramirez spoke first. "Ma'am," he said firmly, "put the flame torch down, right now." Karen's fingers tightened around the handle until her knuckles turned white. Her breathing was fast and shallow, like someone drowning in their own panic. "No," she yelled. "You don't understand. I was doing my job. They broke the HOA's safety rules. That fire could have burned the grass." Officer Lee took one slow step forward, hands open but his expression sharp and unyielding. "That's not your job," he said calmly. "And even if it was, pointing fire at a newborn is never acceptable." Karen's face twisted. Sweat dripped down her forehead as she spun toward the crowd. "You're all against me," she screamed. "I was helping. I'm the HOA president. I keep this neighborhood safe," a neighbor shouted back. "By pointing fire at a baby?" Another yelled, "You finally lost it, Karen." But Karen only shook her head wildly, tears flying from her lashes. "No, no, no, you're twisting everything. I wasn't trying to hurt the baby. I was trying to teach the parents a lesson." Officer Ramirez stepped closer. "The only person learning a lesson today is you, ma'am." Karen backed up so fast she nearly tripped over her own feet. I didn't mean it. I didn't know they were the chief's family," she cried. And that's when I stepped forward. "You shouldn't need to know," I said quietly but clearly. Karen froze. Her lip trembled, her knees buckled, her grip on the fire gun torch loosened. But still she tried. Still she clawed for control. I can't go to jail," she whispered, voice cracking into raw panic. "I'm important. I run this neighborhood. You need me. Without me, there's no order." "You endangered an infant," Officer Ramirez said flatly. "That is a felony." Karen sobbed. "No, no, please, don't. I didn't mean it. I didn't think. I didn't know." Her voice trailed off as she realized there was no escape. And then, clatter. The fire torch slipped from her shaking hand. It hit the pavement and rolled harmlessly across the driveway, its flames sputtering out. The officers moved instantly. "Ma'am, turn around," Officer Lee instructed. Karen whipped her head around, eyes wide with sheer horror. "No, please, don't. I didn't do anything wrong. I swear, please. You can't arrest me. I'm the HOA president. I'm important." "You threatened a newborn with a weapon," Officer Ramirez replied. "That's all we need to know." Karen stumbled backward, tripping onto the grass, crying so hard her words came out in broken fragments. "I was helping. I was protecting the rules." Officer Lee gently but firmly pulled her to her feet. "Turn around," he repeated. Karen screamed, a high-pitched, defeated scream, the scream of someone who finally realized their power was gone. She turned slowly, shaking like a leaf in a storm. Click, click. The handcuffs snapped around her wrists. She whimpered, "No, no, no, please. I didn't know she was his baby. I didn't know." I stepped forward, my voice steady as stone. "You shouldn't need to know who she belongs to," I said. "You should care because she's a child." Karen stared at me through tear-filled eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. Please don't do this." But the officers were already guiding her toward the police car. Her shoes scraped the pavement as she tried to dig her heels in. "Please," she cried. "You need me in this neighborhood. I'm the only one who follows the rules." Officer Ramirez opened the back door. Karen twisted, panicking. "No. Please. They'll ruin everything without me. I was keeping order. I was helping." "No," Officer Lee said calmly. "You were hurting people." They placed her inside the car. The door slammed shut. The sound echoed through the entire street. Final, heavy, undeniable. Karen rushed to the window, pressing her tear-streaked face against the glass. Her voice came out muffled but frantic. "Please, don't let them take me. I didn't mean it, I didn't—" The engine started. Her voice faded. Neighbors lowered their phones. Mothers hugged their children. People exhaled. My wife held our newborn closer, kissing her tiny forehead. As the police car drove away with Karen inside, a strange peace settled over the entire block. Soft, warm, and long overdue. Karen's reign of terror was gone. Her power was gone. And for the first time in a long time, our neighborhood felt safe because the woman who had threatened a newborn baby with fire, the woman who thought AO rules made her invincible, had just learned the hardest lesson of her life. You never threaten the family of the police chief. And justice had arrived exactly when it needed to. When Karen's patrol car turned the corner and vanished from sight, the entire street sank into a strange, heavy silence. It wasn't fear anymore. It wasn't panic. It was relief, the kind you can feel in your bones. My wife sat on the porch steps, her shoulders trembling as she held our newborn close to her chest. The baby had finally stopped crying, now making tiny soft breaths, curling like a little kitten inside her mother's arms. "She's okay," I whispered, settling beside them. My wife nodded slowly, though her eyes were still red. I thought something horrible would happen," she said quietly. Her voice cracked halfway through. I wrapped my arm around her, steadying her the way she'd steadied herself all day. "She's safe now," I said softly. "Both of you are—" The baby shifted, letting out a little coo. Even that tiny sound felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Neighbors began gathering in small clusters around the front yard, not intruding, just watching, quietly supporting. Some walked all the way up to us with blankets, bottles of water, tissues, soft words and gentle nods. "I can't believe Karen did that," Mrs. Patel whispered, shaking her head with real sadness. She finally crossed the line. Another neighbor rested a hand on my wife's shoulder. "You're not alone. We're here for all of you," one of the neighborhood dads added. "She scared everyone for years. It's over now." My wife leaned her head against me, exhausted and heavy. "Will she come back?" she whispered. "No," I said firmly. "She'll face the consequences now. She won't be in charge again. Not after this." For the first time in months, the air felt different, lighter, warmer, like the neighborhood had been carrying a weight for too long, and now it had finally been lifted off all our backs. Someone quietly began putting the stroller upright again. Another neighbor refolded the baby blanket that had fallen earlier. Kids who had been hiding behind fences slowly came out, holding their parents' hands. Everyone behaved gently, as if the whole street was trying to help us rebuild the moment Karen destroyed. My wife kissed the baby's forehead, her tears falling onto the soft blanket. She didn't deserve any of that fear. "She's just a newborn," she whispered. "No one deserves fear," I said. "Not a baby, not a mother, not a family." The baby let out another tiny sound, a soft, delicate hum, and my wife's face softened. She stroked the baby's cheek with her thumb. "She's so small," she said, "so innocent." And Karen pointed fire at her. Her voice trailed off, her body shaking again. I held her tighter. "Karen made her final mistake today," I said. "She forgot something important." My wife looked up. "What?" "That she wasn't in charge." I touched our baby's little hand. She thought she ran this neighborhood. But no HOA rule gives anyone the right to threaten a child. My wife nodded slowly. For a long moment we just sat there, the three of us, breathing in the quiet. The sky faded from orange to soft purple as the sun dipped lower behind the houses. The breeze brushed across the baby's blanket gently, almost protectively. A few neighbors stayed at a respectful distance, talking quietly among themselves. "Thank God the baby's safe." He finally stood up to her. She had this coming for a long time. Mrs. Green approached timidly. "If you need meals this week, we'll bring some over," she said. "No one should have to cook after a day like this." My wife smiled weakly. "Thank you. That means a lot." I watched the people, the same people Karen used to yell at, fine, and intimidate, now united in kindness. Karen had built her power through fear, but the moment she was gone, the community stepped in with compassion instead. That was the difference between control and care. Once the last neighbor drifted home, the street quieted again. The porch lights flickered on, glowing gently across our yard. My wife breathed out slowly. "It feels peaceful now," she said. "It is," I replied. She laid the baby in my arms so she could rest her hands a moment. The newborn curled into the curve of my elbow, warm and tiny, her little breaths brushing against my skin like the wings of a butterfly. I looked down at her. This small, delicate life that had already survived more drama in 9 days than most people do in years. Her tiny hands stretched out and curled around my finger. My wife smiled softly. "She's strong," she whispered, She gets that from you. I shook my head. She gets it from us. As I held her close, I let the last pieces of that horrible day melt away. The fear, the chaos, the screaming, all of it faded beneath the soft weight of my newborn daughter. Karen made her last mistake when she pointed fire at the wrong baby, the police chief's daughter. Justice found her. Peace found us. And this neighborhood would never be the same again, in the best possible way.